Now that we've created an old computer screen, we're ready to add in our fonts. So just to remind you, here's what we have so far. We have some text that says, I am the SuperVac 9000, I can compute any tape, and that is residing inside of this screen with a gradient background, and it has a static image overlaid on top of it just to give it some texture. We have SuperVac 9000 as the label on top of our bezel here that wraps around our screen. And then finally, we have some text down here that says, read more about the internet. And that's actually going to be our sticky note, which we have not yet created, but we will soon. Let's go ahead and switch back to the text editor. At the bottom of our CSS document here, we're going to select our screen, and we'll select all the paragraphs inside of that screen. And we'll give it a line height of 1.4 ems. We'll adjust the font size to 2.4 ems. We'll give the font a color of just green. And when we switch back to the browser and refresh, you can see that we now have this nice large font, and it's in this green color that looks pretty nice against our screen. Now we need to add in the sticky note right here that says, read more about internet. So we'll go ahead and select our paragraph sticky. We're going to give this an explicit width of 130 pixels and an explicit height of 90 pixels. And we're going to position this absolutely. And we'll anchor it to the bottom with 0 pixels, and we'll set it to the right with 180 pixels. We want to give it 15 pixels of padding. And we'll go ahead and skip down here a little bit more. On the top, we want to give it 30 pixels of padding. And for now, we'll give this a background color of yellow, and we'll switch back to the browser and refresh. So now we're at a point where we're ready to add in our fonts. For fonts, we're going to use the Google Font API or Google Web Fonts at google.com/webfonts. And the first font we're going to use is the one right here at the top, VT323. So we'll just go ahead and click on that, and we'll click Use this font. And we want to go ahead and copy in this style sheet into our HTML. And you want to make sure that you paste in these fonts before your style sheet, because inside of your style sheet, you'll be using the font family property to refer to these fonts. So we'll go ahead and paste that in. And we'll go ahead and switch back to our style sheet. So we'll go ahead and scroll up to the paragraph that's inside of our screen. And we'll say font family, and we'll give this a value of VT323. And we want this to fall back to Arial and then fall back to a serifed font. So we'll go ahead and switch back to Google Chrome, and we'll go to our web page and refresh the page. And as you can see, we now have this nice pixelated font on our screen. So the next font we want to pick is for the bezel here, where it says SuperVac 9000. So we'll go ahead and go back to Google Web Fonts here, and we'll scroll down here and pick this font called Geo. And again, we'll click on Use this font, and we'll copy and paste this style sheet into our HTML. Then in our style sheet, we'll go ahead and scroll up to where the paragraph is being selected inside of the bezel. And again, we'll say font family. We're using the Geo font. And just like last time, we want this to fall back to Arial and serif. So we'll go back to Google Chrome, refresh our website, and as you can see, we now have this nice blocky Geo font where it says SuperVac 9000. Finally, we need to pick a font for our sticky note over here in the bottom right. And we'd probably want to go with a font that has a little bit of a handwritten look. So we'll go ahead and go back to Google Web Fonts here, and we'll scroll down a little bit. And I like this homemade Apple font, so we'll go with that. And we'll click on use this font, and we'll just copy this style sheet here and go back to our HTML. This is the last font we'll be using. We'll go ahead and paste that in, and just to remind you, we want to make sure that we paste all of our fonts before the style sheet we're using these fonts in. So we'll go back to our style sheet. We're using this on the sticky note. So right down here in the sticky, we want to go ahead and say font family. And this font is called Homemade Apple. And we want this to fall back to Arial and Serif, just like the other fonts. And at this point, we're done with the Google Web Font directory. So we'll go ahead and refresh the page here. And there you can see we now have this homemade Apple font that looks handwritten on this sticky note. No matter how unusual a font might look, there's always an appropriate context. In the next video, we'll add some final polish.